Kuriboh. That's a Kuriboh. That's a Kuriboh. That's a... Well, okay, that's just a curry bowl, but that's a Kuriboh. When did there get to be so many freaking Kuribohs? I stopped playing this game for only a couple years, I come back, and these damn things have multiplied like rabbits if they discovered Viagra. They're freaking everywhere now. Like, Kuriboh? Really? Like, I always used to think if you were gonna pick a mascot of the entire Yu-Gi-Oh franchise, like one monster card to represent the whole taco, I would go with Yugi's Dark Magician or Kaiba's Blue Eyes White Dragon. Seemed like an obvious choice, right? But no. Apparently Japan decided a long time ago we're gonna make this furball our Pikachu, essentially, which I guess it makes sense. I mean, Pikachu's this adorable little yellow mouse, and Kuriboh's an adorable fluffy little hairball. But even so, I think it's just because the original artwork of Kuriboh from the Metal Raiders set, you know, this artwork right here, it just, it seemed like one of the more bland ones out of all of it. I mean, right? I mean, one of my favorite card designs from earlier on in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's not from Metal Raiders, it's actually from Legend of Blue Eyes, but it's the Trial of Nightmare. Look at this. It's a demon-possessed sword with a skeleton and skull guard piercing a coffin. That is so freaking beast, you know? But then you get to Kuriboh, and it's just a furball with eyes and claws. But apparently super freaking popular. Now, kind of just like Pikachu, if you remember the original variations of Pikachu from the first gen games, red and blue and yellow or green in Japan, Pikachu was a little bit more rounder and kind of plump. He was a little different, but then over the years, because they knew they had like a cash cow on their hands here, they were like, all right, let's modify him a little bit. So Pikachu gets changed up every so often in a bunch of different varieties of him, and Kuriboh was kind of the same way. They kind of abandoned this sort of layout and made him more cutesy and adorable, kind of how he appears in the anime. And while we're on the topic of the anime, let's talk about that. So, Kaiba, I know, you're getting a little afraid here, because we now have to talk about that one time Yugi created an infinite wall of Kuribohs to protect himself against any attack that would replenish itself immediately because it's infinite. Which I guess is kind of the same thing Konami is attempting to do right now. It's like, oh man, I know they say it's impossible to reach infinity, but dang nabbit, our Lord and Savior, Winged Dragon of Ra, we are gonna find a way to make as many Kuribohs as possible. They might as well be infinite. But yeah, one thing that bugged me in the anime, though, before we even get to the infinity wall of Kuribohs, one thing in the anime that always bugged me growing up as a kid that was a fan of the actual card game and also watched the anime was the characters in the show would always refer to Kuriboh as like the objectively weakest duel monster in the entire game. Like, anytime Yugi would play Kuriboh, the opposing, duelist would just laugh in his face, like, ha ha ha, Kuriboh, are you even trying to win? Like, no one else would play Kuriboh. It was like Yugi was the only one that kept him in his deck, and I kind of understand what they were maybe going for, because, Yugi believes in the heart of the cards, and he, trusts his deck, and he treats his monsters like their family, that he was like, Kuriboh, everyone thinks you're weak and pathetic, but come on over. I'm the king of games, bitch. I can find a place for you. And find a place for him he does, because Kuriboh, despite being considered objectively the weakest monster in the game, has like a bunch of different uses that no one, I guess, just thought to look into. Even Pegasus, who is, let me remind you, the creator of the game, seemingly does not understand when Yugi is using the combo with the Kuriboh and the multiply, and he uses it to eventually take out his strongest monster. Pegasus, right up until it was about to happen, was like, what? No, that's impossible. It's like, Pegasus, you created the game. You should know what's going to happen when he has Kuriboh, because last time I checked, hold on, let me do a number crunch on this really quick. 1,000 is in fact less than infinity. So, yeah, there's a thing there. But even when I was a kid, I never really understood the hate for Kuriboh, because playing the actual card game, and I had a Kuriboh, I was like, Kuriboh is not the weakest duel monster. Like, even if you want to treat Kuriboh as just a vanilla monster, which it isn't, it clearly has an effect, but even if you were going to treat it as a vanilla monster that has 300 attack and 200 defense, level 1 fiend, it's still not the weakest, because there was another card that I remember getting, Thousand Eyes Idol, which is a vanilla monster that has 0 attack, 0 defense, and the only purpose of Thousand Eyes Idol, I mean, I don't know, because now, you know, XZs are a thing, and synchros and everything. There might be another use for Thousand Eyes Idol now, in some way, maybe, in some very niche kind of archetype. But when it came to back then, Thousand Eyes Idol is, like, pretty much, like, objectively the weakest monster. It's vanilla, it has no effects, and it's 0 attack, 0 defense. Even Kuriboh's better than that on its worst day, but it still has an effect, alright? And the effect is pretty cool as far as, like, early Yu-Gi-Oh! Goes. It's essentially the very first hand trap, which maybe that's why it became so famous, you know, over the course of the period, because it started this legacy of, like, you know, Ash Blossoms and whatnot. You know, it all started with Kuriboh. So, I'll just read to you Kuriboh's effect. I'm pretty sure most of us Yu-Gi-Oh! Aficionados are aware of it. Oh, and just to keep in mind, once again, we're not really here to analyze the entire Kuriboh archetype. Number one, because I do not feel qualified to do that, and also another channel by the name of TGS Anime already did a Kuriboh archetype kind of retrospective. They also did one on Exodia as well. It goes a little bit more in depth than me, so go check out their channel. I'll leave them in an iCard right there. Pretty cool stuff, really. But let me just go through Kuriboh's effect really quick here. Discard this card from your hand. Make the battle damage inflicted to your life points by one of your opponent's monsters 0. You can only use the effect during your opponent's battle phase. Okay, now that might have... I don't know, I feel like that last part might have been eroded at some point, that might have been added in, but beside the point, it's always the same effect as in, discard it from your hand, one of your opponent's monsters attacks does 0. Now, yeah, the effect was pretty good back then in early Yu-Gi-Oh!, mostly because your opponent probably didn't even see it coming, because Kuriboh was the very first monster card that had an effect like that, where it was activated in the hand rather than on the field, or like a flip effect or something. So, your opponent might be, like, wary of it, like, I'm going to attack you directly. There's no way he could protect himself, unless he has a Kuriboh, but what are the odds of that? It's like, I have a Kuriboh? My crap, okay. But even with that being the case now, Kuriboh, just the standard variety, not the winged variety, which is basically the same effect, except it's on the field rather than in your hand. Yeah, you know, ever since then, there's better cards now, that, like, I think I actually have one, yeah, right here, Battle Fader, I think, is the most, you know, obvious example of this, where Battle Fader just ends the battle phase. So with Kuriboh, it's like, oh, it only negates or, you know, reduces the battle damage of one of your opponent's monsters to 0. As like, oh, okay, well, I'll just attack you with another monster, and then boom, you're done. But the cool thing about Kuriboh, I will say, is that there's no prerequisite. With Battle Fader, it has to be a direct attack, so you pretty much already have to have no monsters on the field when, you know, a monster attacks you, and then you can activate Battle Fader's effect. But at least with the original Kuriboh, you could do it whenever, regardless of if you have any monsters on the field. It just reduces battle damage to 0. Alright, so he's dueling Seto Kaiba, right? The second time, at Duelist Kingdom. Kaiba breaks out the Blue Eyes ultimate. There's no way you could possibly defeat me, Yugi. I took all of my dragons and made them in one big dragon, and they're freaking awesome, and that's great, and I want a chocolate cake after this is done, because I'm gonna be so freaking happy, and I want to eat it with your tears. Okay, now, look, here's the thing. Kaiba was doing pretty good in this duel, and I get it, it's Duelist Kingdom, there's different rules, and I understand the whole reason why Kaiba won, because of his Sui strat, so to speak, you know. Yugi, if you attack me, go ahead, but the shockwaves of the holograms could knock me off. But even if you can, like, disregard that whole Sui strat thing, the way Yugi kind of fought back against the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon was kind of like 6 different varieties of bullshit, you know? It really was. Like, the first thing he does is he combines the Mammoth Graveyard with the Living Arrow and Polymerization. You with me so far? To fuse all of that to the Ultimate Dragon to cause it to decay, but it doesn't destroy it right away. It just, like, causes, like, severe necrosis. and so it just loses attack points every turn as it's slowly melting and rotting, and then he has the Celtic Guardian destroy a head, and then at one point Kaiba uses Monster Reborn to revive one of the heads. You know, it's just really big shenanigans, right? And I understand the card game came after the show, but I mean, come on now, all right? This is getting ridiculous. I mean, for the most part, up to this point in the duel, the way Kaiba was dueling was pretty close to the original card game. I mean, yeah, he was using that incredibly OP broken version of Crush Card Virus, but you know, like, at least he wasn't combining monsters with spells and shit, okay? But then it takes even a more crazy turn when, in order to protect his life points from the attacks from the Ultimate Dragon, Yugi combines Kuriboh with the spell card Multiply. And I'll give it to you, that is a thing that actually exists. Multiply's entire purpose is to work with Kuriboh. And I do think there's some other times in the series where Yugi uses Multiply on other monsters other than Kuriboh, because Multiply is basically like, I play Multiply, now I have more of my monsters. You know, that's basically the gist of Multiply in the anime. But I'll give it to you, in the actual card game, Multiply's ability is pretty straightforward. If you got a Kuriboh on the field, and you play Multiply, all of the empty monster card zones on your side of the field become Kuriboh tokens. Easy squeezy lemon peasy. Who's that monster card? It's Sphere Kuriboh! Now, the most cards you can have in your monster zones back then, 5. Yeah, 5 is less than infinite, okay? So what he does, though, is after he combines Kuriboh with Multiply in the anime, Yugi kind of just bullshits his way into be like, oh yeah, it's infinite now. You know, now, to be fair, I believe Multiply is a continuous spell in the anime, so I think the reasoning for this is, as long as I have Kuriboh and Multiply on the field, then I will have, like, an infinite, like, it's, maybe you could look at it like there's 5 Kuribohs, and then if any of them get destroyed, Multiply kicks in again and replaces the one that was destroyed. Maybe you could look at it like that. Like, there's still only 5, but one just keeps coming back. But that's not the way it's visualized in the anime. There's, like, dozens of them all surrounding Yugi as, like, an impenetrable wall of fluff, okay? And in fact, I think I know this is the case, because later on during Battle City, when Yugi and Kaiba are tag dueling Loomis and Umbra on top of that building, you know, on the glass pane, and they'll get sent, you know, to the Shadow Realm. Or the glass will shatter and they'll fall like 50 stories to their Shadow Realm. You're right. In that duel, I think Yugi attempts the same thing, like infinite Kuribohs, and then Umbra or Loomis, which one it was, activated the Mask of Dispel, and that dispelled Multiply, and that reduced the Kuribohs back down to just 1. So I think that's the general logic here. So if Kaiba had some type of, like, if he used Dispel or something to negate the effect of Multiply, then it would just end right there. But no, really, in that duel, it was set up like, Yugi was so chill, he was such a baller there, like, Kuriboh, Multiply, and then he's just standing there with his arms crossed, looking like, and Kaiba's like, this is ridiculous! My Ultimate Dragon cannot be stopped by those hairballs! Ultimate Dragon! Neo White Lightning Burst Stream of Destruction! It up! And then it just launches an endless attack, Kuribohs get wiped out, and it's like, you know, Yugi's just standing there shaking his head like, bring it on, Kaiba, bring it on, bring it on. Blue Eyes attacking again. You know, come on, Yugi. I think you were pushing his buttons. You were pushing his buttons. All right. Still, the whole Sui strat thing maybe going a little bit too far, but come on now. Like, imagine if you were at Worlds, like you were actually doing real Yu-Gi-Oh, like in a competitive setting, okay? And you play Kuriboh and Multiply, and you're like, I have infinite Kuribohs. And your opponent's like, that's stupid. You don't have infinite Kuribohs. I'm attacking you. I win. It's like, nope, infinite Kuribohs. Like, dude, no, I activated the trap card, you know, all that stuff. I attacked you. You're done. It's over. The game is over. It's like, nope, infinite Kuribohs. And, you know, it would just annoy the crowd. It's like, what? No, you didn't. Infinite Kuribohs. call the ref over. Ref comes over. He's like, oh, dude, he's got infinite Kuribohs. I don't know what to tell you. The game's over. He's like, this is the easiest combo ever. All you got to do is have a multiply and a Kuriboh, and boom. You can't have any battle. You can't take any battle damage. I don't know what to tell you, man. You know? Okay. So then later on, Kuriboh was the card that pretty much clinched Yugi's victory against Pegasus, right? Some people throw the, where is Magician? He's over there somewhere. Some people throw the Magician of Black Chaos out there as, oh, the Magician of Black Chaos. That's the one that actually left the death blow on Pegasus. And you're right. The Magician of Black Chaos was the one that did that cool, like, Chaos Stream attack. Boom! And then he loses. But Kuriboh was the one that multiplied and then got sucked up by Thousand Eyes Restrict, and then it was the weirdest thing where, like, some of the Kuribohs got absorbed into Thousand Eyes, but they couldn't absorb all of them because infinity, so some of the Kuribohs just got stuck to all of the Thousand Eyes Restrict's eyes all over its body, and then it was that scene where it's like, Pegasus is like, wait a second, Kuribohs self-destruct upon contact with the enemy. Why did I give it that effect? And why did I give it a spell card that allowed it to be recreated infinitely? I'm an idiot. And so that's what Yugi does. He uses the multiply and the infinity, and Kuribohs can now self-combust apparently, and then boom, 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 and then that just paves the way for Thousand Eyes to release it and win the duel for Yugi. So, yeah, screw Magician of Black Chaos. Kuriboh is the MVP, guys. Kuriboh's the MVP. It wasn't until, later on during Virtual World, we had Kuriboh appear when, as his deck master, and then later on during Waking the Dragons, we had the 5 Kuriboh brothers and Curry Babylon, which I thought was a pretty cool, I'll admit, was a pretty cool thing. Like, there's 5 Kuribohs, and they all fuse into one. I'm a sucker for any kind of, like, fusion sort of character in a series. Even back during, like, Dragon Ball, like the Fusion Dance or the Potaras. Yeah, I'm a sucker for that. So it's like, 5 different multicolored Kuribohs that fuse into one badass Kuriboh? Count me in, anime. I don't even care if you're filler. I enjoyed the Waking the Dragons arc. I'll be fair. It was during the Waking the Dragons arc that I stopped watching Yu-Gi-Oh! But I remember watching the beginning of it and liking it. I thought it was pretty chill. I was aware it wasn't canon, but it was like, okay, we can... Because I think it was just because of the really awesome music, like the Seal of Orichalco's theme, and it's like this weird symbol that robs you of your soul, and it was like green and glowy. I thought it just looked cool. Like, it was an interesting aesthetic, if nothing else. And then the dragons that fused with monsters and stuff, or like Critias could fuse with Mirror Force to make like Mirror Force Dragon, or what was it, like Virus Doom Dragon or something. Like, okay, you got me. You had fusions with dragons. I'm in, right? So, yeah, there. Now, then, of course, we get to GX, which has Jaden and his mascot, which, by the time GX rolls around, the whole concept of, like, no, these aren't just children's playing cards. There's actually, like, an entirely separate dimension that has dueling spirits. That's kind of been realized. It was referenced a few times during the original series. Like, oh, there's another world with monsters that reside in it, but we don't get, like, to see it directly, or they don't come out and interfere directly too often. Ironically enough, the Waking the Dragons arc was one of the few times that actually did happen. But by the time we get to GX, it's like, Jaden and the crew are just running, oh no, there's the spirit of Jinzo! Like, that's just a thing, so it's okay. And then, of course, we had Wing Kuriboh, that's Jaden's little sidekick there. And ever since then, we have Kuribohs that are Link Kuriboh, which are links. I think there's a Kuriboh that's a synchro. So yeah, I understand why they're doing it. It's just like, this is the cutesy little mascot, so every time we introduce a new concept to the game, a new summoning mechanic or something, we have to have some variation of Kuriboh at some point to really fit all this together. But yeah, also, Kuriboh kind of, there were other big shenanigans moments in the anime, in the first season of the anime, but the 3 big ones that I wanted to cover here were the Attack the Moon strat, the Destroying a Castle's Flotation Ring stratagem, and of course, the Infinite Kuriboh strategy. That's right, they all have different variations of the term strategy there. Those are the big ones that I think everybody remembers, because it's like something that you can't do. All right, now, as I said last time when I was talking about panic and the, destroy the castle and everything, like, you should make a spell card that's destroy the flotation ring or attack the castle or something. Kind of the same thing that they did with attack the moon. And the reason that they should do that is because they already did do one with Kuribohs. So there's one for attack the moon and there's one for the infinite Kuribohs, kind of. But there is not one for attack the castle. So you need to get on that, Konami. But what they did for the infinite Kuriboh strategy is they created a card. Well, Multiply was already a card, but they created a card later called Detonate, which, if you actually combine a Kuriboh with Multiply, create 5 Kuribohs, theoretically, on your side of the field if you have no other monsters, and then you activate Detonate, which is another spell card. I think you're able to destroy 1 monster on your opponent's side of the field for every Kuriboh that you have on your side of the field, and if you have 5, then you can use the 5 to destroy up to 5 of your opponent's monsters. So that's cool, I guess. It should have been a little bit... I would have preferred if it was a little bit more of a specific effect. Like, Detonate is like... If you happen to activate Multiply on your Kuriboh, and your opponent happens to have a Thousand Eyes Restrict on their side of the field, then Thousand Eyes Restrict's effect is negated, and its attack becomes 300 and 200, and this effect cannot be negated by any other spell or trap card on the field. And if you have a Magician of Black Chaos on your side, you immediately win the game. I'm a really big fan of the ridiculously specific, there's no way in hell this could possibly happen kind of card effects, if you haven't already noticed, but yeah. Alright, well, that's my Kuriboh video. Maybe it's a little bit shorter than the other ones, but yeah. Oh, I forgot to. I wanted to read the entry on Kuriboh from the tome. The official 2005 Yu-Gi-Oh! Card Catalog. Dun dun dun. Oh, and by the way, yeah, let me read you about Trial of Nightmare. Here's Trial of Nightmare right there. The coffin being pierced by the demon sword. This mid-level monster has high attack. Really? Fucking really? Okay. It's a demon sword stabbing a coffin, and you couldn't come up with any more clever flavor text for that. Like, look at Dark Gray, which is just like a demon goat thing. This rare creature's attack and defense are so well balanced. If you ever get a chance to see Dark Gray, you're extremely lucky. I mean, that's not a lot, but that's something. Freaking, this mid-level monster has high attack. Isn't that kind of a contradictory statement anyway? Yeah, this monster that has mid-level, stats has really high stats. Okay. Anyway, Kuriboh. Kuriboh also appeard in the Yugi Evolution starter deck. The second starter deck with Yugi, I believe they included Kuriboh. And anytime that you get a Yugi-based starter deck right now, they're gonna toss Kuriboh in just for good measure. Maybe that's another way. I wonder if there's somebody out there that has like just a collection of nothing but Kuribohs. That would be interesting. I would want to interview that person. Like, I've been collecting Kuribohs for 20 odd years now. All right, here's Kuriboh's effect. And he was a super rare. I was correct about that. This card acts as a shield for your life points. When you're in a difficult situation, add this card to your hand using Witch of the Black Forest or Sangan. I can't see anything negative happening to either of those cards in the near future. I believe Sangan got eroded. Probably Witch of the Black Forest did too, and I believe they're no longer forbidden, but yeah, there's like limits to them now. But yeah, that's funny. I was like, yeah, just use Witch of the Black Forest or Sangan. Nothing will happen to those cards. Those cards will always be legal. But yeah, that's Kuriboh. So that's more about Witch and Sangan than Kuriboh, but okay, anyway. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Go out there and get yourself a Kuriboh today. Which one's your favorite Kuriboh? I am partial to the classic Kuriboh myself, but I'm also a big fan of, I'll say, like, I made that joke with he's a Digimon in the first episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Histories, but Link Kuriboh, he does look pretty damn sweet. I do like the design, like the digital thing, and kind of like the little compass thing on the top of him, the little arrow spinny thing. I like that, so, alright. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Tekking101, signing out. Crap, guys, no, guys, I can't breathe, there's too many Kuribohs, oh, God help me, somebody please.